Hello, student. Now, what did you have for your lunch? Maybe rice and dal prepared by your mom. But who actually prepares that rice and dal? It's the plant. Plants have the capability of synthesizing the food. How? By using the sunlight. By using the sunlight. Plants have the capability of trapping the sunlight. We cannot trap the sunlight, but the leaves which contains pigment, they'll trap the sunlight. They'll take the water from the soil and they'll take the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and synthesize food for you, for themselves first, and then whatever extra food they will store in their grains which we eat. So foremost they have to get the food for themselves. So therefore they are known as autotrophs. They are autotrophic plants. Autotrophic nutrition. So here the leaves have the capability of taking in the sunlight, trapping the sunlight. Why? Because they have green pigment. Leaves are always green in color. Why? Because they have green pigment. Chlorophyll. With the help of chlorophyll, they are able to trap the sunlight. Atmosphere, carbon dioxide. Soil, water. And they synthesize the food. And what they give? Oxygen. So what we get from plant? Food and oxygen. We are living because the plants are giving us food and oxygen. So here this is the equation of what is happening in the leaf. Carbon dioxide plus water, and due to the chlorophyll and due to the sunlight, light energy, they are able to prepare glucose. Now this glucose will be synthesized and stored in the plant. They synthesize simple glucose, but slowly it forms complex carbohydrate. First they will form sugar, carbohydrate, then they'll form starch, and then complex substance stored in the grain which we have, and again we convert into simple form. Now this glucose is synthesized by this reaction of photosynthesis. We eat this carbohydrate, starch, we get starch, and plant releases the oxygen which we take in. So this is the equation which happens during the process of photosynthesis. Now what is must in this process? Water from the soil, carbon dioxide from air, chlorophyll contained in the leaf, energy from sunlight. Photo means light. Synthesis is forming something by combination. So what is synthesized? Glucose is synthesized. So this process is known as photosynthesis. Now we'll study the structure of the leaf and ultimately what synthesizes. Now let's see the section of the leaf. How the different cells, they perform certain function for photosynthesis. Try to understand this diagram. You might feel it is complicated, but once you have understood, I have drawn few cells, I have not drawn many cells, for you to understand the structure which are important for photosynthesis. So now this is section of leaf. Upper epidermis, lower epidermis. As we have upper epidermis, lower epidermis, section of leaf will show upper epidermis. This is upper, this is lower. Now what is important in the lower is there are openings. There are openings because the leaf will require gases for respiration also, but right now we are doing photosynthesis, so they'll require gas for photosynthesis, that is carbon dioxide. So stomata on the lower side, lower epidermis. Now below this upper epidermis you have this palisade mesophyll. These are the cells which will contain chlorophyll. Now these cells will have organelles. You know, you have studied that each cell will have different organelles. So there are organelles. There is a special organelles, plastid, which contains chlorophyll. Therefore they are known as chloroplast. So you just remember that this palisade mesophyll will have an organelle which is chloroplast. It will contain chlorophyll which is beneficial in photosynthesis. Let's see how. So now here this is palisade mesophyll, green in color. They are the cell which are going to synthesize food. Now stomata will bring carbon dioxide and chloroplast will absorb sunlight. You can see orange color, that's sunlight which is absorbed by palisade mesophyll. So absorption of sunlight, carbon dioxide reaching here. Now you have studied xylem. Xylem is for absorption of water and mineral, because for photosynthesis is making food, so it requires water. So who's going to bring the water from the roots is xylem. So this tissue, red color tissue, you can see that is xylem, which is going to bring water to this palisade mesophyll. They'll bring water, and through stomata, this spongy cells, spongy mesophills, they will bring carbon dioxide. So now stomata will bring carbon dioxide to the palisade mesophyll, xylem will bring water to this, and from up sunlight will be there entering the cell. So now what will happen here? Water has entered, carbon dioxide has entered. So carbon dioxide plus water gives glucose C6H12O6. That's the formula. So it is going to produce glucose. Glucose, simple sugar, and oxygen will be released. That's the byproduct of photosynthesis. Release of oxygen is the byproduct. Here we have sugar now. How? Carbon dioxide, water, sunlight, sugar has been prepared. By which cell? Palisade mesophyll. They have prepared simple sugar. Now this sugar will go into other cells. That is, here spongiomesophyll cells are present. They will go in between these cells and will be stored as starch. In the leaf, starch will be present. Now more sugar will go in the simple form to the stem, roots, all the organs. So starch they will go in the form of simple sugar and convert into starch. They'll go to different organs of the plant, and then extra starch will be stored in the grain, in the fruits. So here you have to understand the structure. Simple structure, upper lower epidermis. What is the function of lower epidermis? Stomata, that's the opening which will bring the carbon dioxide to the palisade mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll is the hero which is going to carry out the photosynthesis, actual photosynthesis. Stomata is going to provide with carbon dioxide required. Xylem is going to provide with the water. Upward through the epidermis, now the sunlight will enter. So it has got energy of light, it has got water, it has got carbon dioxide, it will prepare sugar, glucose, which will go to different parts of the leaves and through phloem. Now taking the sugar, the food prepared is the work done by the phloem. Phloem will take the sugar to different parts. So xylem is conducting the water upwards, phloem is supplying food to different parts of the plants. So here this is the function. This is the bundle of xylem and phloem. So xylem and phloem you will find inside. So xylem will give water, carbon dioxide, water entering the palisade mesophyll. So here now sugar, this arrow you can see sugar has been prepared. So now this sugar is given to different parts of the leaf. Now simple sugar will be converted into starch. In between spongy mesophyll cells will be present. There are more chlorophyll containing cells which will help in photosynthesis. So this is the simple structure. This is a section of leaf and you can see different types of cells. Don't get scared by this diagram. Try to understand this diagram. They are ultra microscopic. You can't see this cell in your school microscope also. So here you have to imagine these cells performing this function, but try to understand this is the base of photosynthesis. So you have to understand this section of leaf, the different cells, upper epidermis, lower epidermis, palisade mesophyll, xylem, phloem, chlorophyll containing more cells, and spongomesophills. This is the mesophyll tissues. Now let's see how the stomata works. Now this is the structure of stomata. Singular is stoma and plural is stomata. They are made up of two bean-shaped guard cells. They are made up of two bean-shaped guard cells. Now, during the day, these guard cells are filled with water. They are turgid. Therefore the opening is more and it allows the gaseous exchange, that is taking in carbon dioxide and giving out of oxygen. Now, during the night, the water from the guard cell is taken out, it becomes flaccid and therefore the opening closes. So now at night it is closed, the gaseous exchange is reduced. So this is how stomata works. It is more on the lower surface and less on the upper surface. Now the leaves, they have certain adaptation for photosynthesis. Now the cells which are present, the palisade cells, palisade mesophills, they contain chloroplast, the organelle which has chlorophyll, which is able to absorb sunlight and prepare food. The leaf has got broad surface and below the epidermis this palisade mesophyll cells are spread to absorb the light and carry out the photosynthesis. So that is the adaptation of the leaf. It is broad, wide and flat surface to absorb sunlight. Now there are palisade mesophyll cells which absorb the sunlight. Now there are stomata, the pores which are present, minute pores, stomata, which takes in the carbon dioxide, which comes to the palisade tissues, and then the synthesis takes place in the palisade mesophills. Now there are intercellular spaces in the leaf which allows the free coming of the carbon dioxide and the water entering the palisade tissue. So intercellular spaces among the cells. Palisade mesophiles, there are numerous chloroplasts which consist chlorophyll for absorption of sunlight. And in addition to that, there is continuous supply of water through xylem. So supply of water, and there is extensive network. If you take a leaf, you will see the network of veins in the leaf, so that allows water to spread in the leaves, and that is by the process of osmosis. Osmosis is a process if the concentration outside is less and more inside, the fluid from outside will come inside. So this is osmosis, and due to the process of osmosis, the water comes inside the leaf. So supply of water by the extensive network of veins within leaf lamina. Lamina is the surface of the leaf, and that is by the process of osmosis. Now whatever food has been prepared, that has to be translocated, supplied to different regions. So translocation of prepared food to other parts of plant takes place with the help of phloem in the leaf. So leaf is able to conduct the food prepared there to different parts. That's the adaptation of the leaf. Now oxygen, which is produced as a byproduct of photosynthesis, is released through stomata. So stomata performs the function of taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen. So all this process of photosynthesis, who does? Leaf does. So leaf is adapted to carry out this photosynthesis, and they have the adaptation so that they can carry out the photosynthesis. As we have blood vascular system to conduct the food and water throughout the body, we have blood, arteries and veins. Same way the plants, they have a vascular system, transport system, vascular system. So which are the tissues which are responsible for transport of to form transport system is xylem and phloem. Xylem will conduct water, phloem will conduct the food prepared by the leaves. So the xylem, it conducts water. Along with the water, it will conduct mineral also from the roots to stem to the leaves for photosynthesis. So for photosynthesis, xylem will collect water and mineral to supply to the leaf. So this is one part of photosynthesis. Without that, it is not possible. Now without sunlight also it is not possible. So what does sunlight does? It is trapped by chlorophyll. You have understood now that it is chlorophyll which is trapping the sunlight. So once it enters the sunlight, it enters, what it does, it breaks water. Water has reached through xylem. Xylem has collected the water. So first thing what light will do, it will break water. Now this breaking is very crucial. Without breaking, we will not get our end product. So it will break water. Water will break into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. H plus, this is the sign for ion. They are in ionic condition. Hydrogen, hydroxyl, OH, negative it is. So now it is broken into hydrogen and hydroxyl. Now carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide will combine with hydrogen and form glucose, C6H12O6. Now this hydroxyl is O and H. O and H will also get separated. Oxygen will leave hydrogen and will come out of the plant. O2. This is the oxygen which we breathe in, we require for respiration. Plants and animals, they require oxygen for respiration. So O2 will come out of the plant. Some will remain for the plant respiration also, but most of them, they are forming at a very high speed. So most of them will come out and be in the atmosphere. These are the end product, glucose and oxygen. So first step is splitting of water into hydrogen and hydroxyl ion, and oxygen from this hydroxyl will separate and go out as O2, oxygen, and this carbon dioxide will collect all the hydrogen and will form one C6H12O6, that is glucose. Now, this process is happening at a very high speed in the leaf. Now, this glucose will go on forming complex glucose and they will form starch. During the day, it will form starch. At night, when there is no sunlight, they will get converted into sucrose. They will dissolve in water, get converted into sucrose, simple sugar, and becoming sucrose, dissolve in water. They will be transported to different parts of the plant. And some will also form grains. Now this will store this sugar in the form of starch, which you are going to eat and then convert into glucose. So this is the process. First, the transportation has to take place, water has to reach, sunlight has to reach, then the breaking has to take place, and then the combination takes place. So our end product is glucose and oxygen. During photosynthesis, our end product is glucose and oxygen. And the significance of this photosynthesis is getting food for us, for all the plants and animals by this process. That is the significance of photosynthesis, and getting oxygen for all the organisms, plants and animals, for respiration and getting the energy. Now, this photosynthesis depends upon certain factors. They have to be very normal and they are interdependent of each other. The temperature has to be less than 40, otherwise the enzymes will not work. It's at very high temperature, the enzymes, they stop working. So you do not find plants at very high temperature in desert, and you don't find the plants growing in very cold region, because the enzymes are paralyzed at very high and low temperature. It stops the enzyme action. So if the temperature is not normal, the plants will not grow. If the sunlight is not sufficient, the plants will not grow. If the water is not in sufficient quantity, the plants will not grow. But main three factors you can give three factors. You can say there are three factors on which the photosynthesis is dependent on. One is sunlight, carbon dioxide, and temperature for normal photosynthesis to take place. Now students, we all breathe in. We breathe in oxygen, and that oxygen goes to each and every cell. Oxidation takes place in each and every cell, and energy is released. So what energy we have? That is due to the energy produced by oxygen. Oxidation of glucose. ATP is formed for us. Same thing happens for plants also. So let's see what happens, why plants require energy and what happens during the respiration. Now you should know respiration is exactly opposite of photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, carbon dioxide it combines with water to form glucose. Now and it releases oxygen along with glucose. But here in respiration, exactly opposite happens. Glucose combines with oxygen to release energy, and byproduct are carbon dioxide and water. So if you have understood photosynthesis properly, it is easy for you to understand the equation of respiration. They are exactly opposite. So respiration in plants require constant supply of energy. For what? For growth. The cells are going to multiply. The growth will take place. For multiplication, certain chemical reaction takes place. The roots grow. They suck in the water mineral, bring to the leaves. So all these processes, they require energy. So energy, how do they get the energy? By respiration. You know, during the photosynthesis it releases oxygen. That oxygen goes into the atmosphere. But for respiration, plants will capture that oxygen and carry out respiration, utilize the food which they have, that is glucose plus oxygen, and they utilize. In photosynthesis it was sunlight. Here, what is the energy? What chemicals will be used for this chemical change? That is enzymes. Enzymes are substance like saliva. So enzymes are present in saliva. You can feel this enzyme. You take some bread and start chewing continuously. It get converted into glucose because that is the enzyme that is reacting. Same way, your enzymes are helping for this chemical reaction. So what is the chemical reaction? Glucose plus oxygen, enzyme reacts, carbon dioxide is released, water is released, and energy is released. So this is respiration. Now respiration can be without oxygen also. If it happens in presence of oxygen, it is known as aerobic respiration. But if it happens without oxygen, it is known as anaerobic respiration. Now, we all carry, plants, animal, or big plants and animal, they carry aerobic respiration, they require oxygen. So who carries anaerobic respiration? Small organisms which are parasites, they don't get oxygen, they'll carry out anaerobic respiration. Then you must have seen the idli batter at home. Which organism is growing in it? Yeast. Yeast is growing. Yeast carries out the anaerobic respiration. And the respiration, the chemical reaction, they don't complete it. Like in aerobic, complete oxidation takes place. Here, the complete oxidation does not take place in anaerobic respiration. Here, the energy released is very high. Here, the energy released is very less. So it happens in lower organisms, that is parasites, yeast, etc. And in addition, when you're very tired, you get pain in the muscles. Why? Your muscles have produced energy anaerobically and it produces lactic acid. That is why you have pain in the muscle. That will get absorbed and you will be okay after some time. But your muscles also carry out anaerobic respiration. You should be very clear in what is aerobic and anaerobic. This question is certain to be asked in exam, difference between the aerobic and anaerobic. So here aerobic, glucose same. Here oxygen is present, here oxygen is absent. Enzyme is here, enzyme is here. Now ethanol is produced in anaerobic respiration, ethanol is not produced in anaerobic respiration. Carbon dioxide is produced, carbon dioxide is produced. Water is produced, here no water. The energy difference is very high. You might think why we don't carry anaerobic respiration always, because you'll have very less energy. See the comparison, one molecule of glucose will produce 38 ATP of energy in aerobic, whereas 2 ATP in anaerobic. That is the difference. 38 ATP in an aerobic. Aerobic respiration, we all carry aerobic respiration. Plants, animal, all carry aerobic respiration. So here aerobic respiration, because we get lot of energy. Now this thing you have to understand. What is ATP? The energy is produced, that is stored in the chemical form like currency, our bank balance. Whenever we want energy, we take from the bank. That is ATP, stored as ATP. What is ATP? It's a chemical of energy. So what is the full form of ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. Since energy which it has formed by the respiration, aerobic respiration, 38 ATP, that is the currency. The energy is preserved in the form of chemical, that is ATP. So whenever that ATP is there in the cell, whenever we require energy, that ATP gets converted to energy and supplies with energy. So this is the thing which you have to know in respiration, that glucose plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide, water and energy. And there are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. In aerobic, oxygen is required, anaerobic no oxygen. Ethanol is produced in anaerobic, no ethanol in aerobic. And main differences of the ATP, that is 38 ATP in aerobic and 2 ATP in anaerobic. And all the big plants and animals carry out aerobic respiration, whereas yeast and parasites and our muscles, they carry out anaerobic respiration. So this is what you have to know about the respiration, and I'll be making a video for question answers so that you are thorough with the topic. Hello students. Now you have understood the topic of photosynthesis. What you have to do is write the question answers in your notebook. Let me revise this question and give you the answer. You have to take the textbook and write the answers according to the how it is given in the textbook. So photosynthesis, answer the following. What is autotrophic type of nutrition? It is the plants, they prepare their own food with the help of carbon dioxide, water with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll. That is autotrophic type of nutrition. What is the first form of simple soluble carbohydrate in photosynthesis? Glucose. What is photosynthesis? It's a process of absorbing the sunlight using the chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, water and making glucose. What are the four requirements for photosynthesis? Carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and sunlight. Now, how is photosynthesis represented? CO2 plus H2O in presence of sunlight gives C6H12O6 and plus oxygen. That is how it is represented. In which type of cells photosynthesis takes place? In the mesophyll cells. Now, mesophyll cells on the upper layer in the epidermis, they are modified palisade mesophyll cells. They have more of chlorophyll. They carry out photosynthesis to a great extent. But some spongy mesophills are present on the lower side. But the answer is mesophyll cells. So which type of cells carry out, which type of cells photosynthesis takes place? Mesophyll cells. In which cell organelle photosynthesis takes place? Now you know there are different organelles present inside the cell. So in cell different functions will be carried out, but one particular cell organelle which carries out photosynthesis is chloroplast. Chloroplast given in the textbook is the palisade cells will consist of plastids. Now plastids are modified to form chloroplast, and the photosynthesis is carried out in chloroplast. So you have to understand the series. In mesophyll cells, in the palisade mesophyll cells, there are plastids which are modified to form chloroplast, and photosynthesis carried out in chloroplast. So you have to write how it is given in the textbook. Which is the pigment required for photosynthesis? Chlorophyll. What is the function of the stomata? Exchange of gases, taking in carbon dioxide, giving out oxygen. How does the guard cell works in stomata? Guard cells become turgid during the day, so more space for the exchange of gases, and at night water is taken out of the guard cells, they shrivel and the space is lesser. We know more. Now, how does the water coming from the veins enter the cell? It enters by osmosis. Osmosis is a process where the water enters from the lower to higher concentration. Concentration in the leaf cell is more, so from veins it enters by osmosis. The answer is osmosis. How is oxygen produced during photosynthesis? Released in the atmosphere by the stomata. Stomata are the opening which allows the release of the oxygen. They are guarded by guard cells. There is space in between. Oxygen is whatever has been formed during photosynthesis is released in atmosphere by stomata, the opening in the leaf in the lower epidermis. Which are the two types of tissue in plants forming vascular system? Xylem and phloem. What does the xylem transports? It transports the water from the roots to different parts of the plant. Along with the water, also minerals. So water and minerals transported by xylem. What does the sunlight energy do to the water? It breaks the water into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. Now, what happens to the oxygen from the hydroxyl ion? What happens to the oxygen from the hydroxyl ions? It breaks from hydrogen and combines with another oxygen, and it is released through stomata. So oxygen is released in the atmosphere. That is what happens to this oxygen. What happens to the hydrogen ion? Hydrogen ion combines with carbon dioxide to form C6H12O6, that is glucose. What is the function of the phloem? Whatever food is prepared, glucose get converted into starch. But at night, the phloem transfers this glucose into different parts of the plant, but in the form of sucrose, soluble sucrose. So, conduction of food is the function of phloem. What are the factors affecting photosynthesis? Naturally, carbon dioxide will affect. Sunlight will affect. No sunlight, no photosynthesis. No carbon dioxide, no photosynthesis. And the temperature has to be very normal, around 40 degree. If it is very less, no photosynthesis. Very high, no photosynthesis. So these are the three factors affecting photosynthesis. What joins together to form insoluble starch for temporary storage? Now, glucose, they are the soluble, which converts into starch, becomes insoluble, and they are stored, and at night they are converted into sucrose, transferred to different parts of the plant. So all these questions you have to write in your notebook looking into your textbook. So read the textbook, understand, and write these question answers. Now more questions on respiration. What is the use of energy in plants? Plants, they utilize the energy for growth, for multiplication, and to suck the nutrition. Xylem will suck the water and mineral, and the food will be carried out to the different parts of the body. All happens with the help of energy. Without energy, nothing is possible. What happens during respiration? Now you know during respiration energy is released, and there are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. So here energy, what happens during respiration? Energy is released. Energy is released, glucose is broken down, C6H12O6. In aerobic, it gives carbon dioxide, water, and 38 ATP. So ATP is the hero. Energy is required by breaking the glucose. So what happens during the respiration? Energy is released by breaking of the glucose. Which is chemical energy in plant? ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Which are the two types of respiration? Aerobic and anaerobic respiration are the two types of respiration. What happens in aerobic respiration? Glucose C6H12O6 is reacted upon by enzyme to release carbon dioxide, water vapor and 38 ATP. Adenosine triphosphate is the chemical energy. Now, second type of respiration is anaerobic. Here also C6H12O6 is reacted upon by the enzymes. Here ethanol is produced. Ethanol is produced. Now, ethanol is not produced in aerobic respiration. Ethanol is produced in anaerobic respiration. We all the higher organisms, they carry out aerobic respiration. Lower form like the yeast, the parasites and even the mussels sometimes carry out aerobic respiration and produce lactic acid. That time we have pain in our muscles. So that is what is the difference between the aerobic and anaerobic. Here oxygen is required, here oxygen is not required. Here carbon dioxide, water, 38 ATP. Here ethanol is produced. Ethanol, carbon dioxide and 2 ATP. So what is the main difference between them? Here aerobic, more energy, 38 ATP. Whereas ATP is like a cache of energy. So more cache here, 38 ATP. Whereas here only 2 ATP is produced. Because you might ask sometimes why there has to be aerobic, anaerobic respiration, because this organism are small ones, they do not require much energy, so why they should carry out aerobic respiration. So in anaerobic respiration, very little, 2 ATP, adenosine triphosphate is produced. Here 38 ATP, that is 38 adenosine triphosphate is release. So what we want from respiration? Energy. So more energy, here less energy. So these are the questions. You take the textbook, write the answer in your notebook. All the best.